Hi readers, Chris here. Today I'm going to be doing my Better Late Than Never March wrap up and April TBR. Here's the thing about March. It was a long month, but it was a very busy month. Therefore, most of the books that I finished in March, I literally finished on March 31st. Yes, March 31st. Finished 4 books on March 31st. So that's why it's taken me a bit of time to put this video together. But I'm going to go through my March reads now, and I'm going to rank them from least favorite to favorite, starting with my least favorite book of March. Sad about this one, but that's going to be Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantle. Now, this was a buddy read that I was supposed to do with Kirsten over at Reading Nymph. I know that she had a lot going on as well. She didn't have time to get around to this book, and if you're watching this, I'm saying don't bother because I did not like this book. Which makes me really sad because I love Philippa Gregory, I love historical fiction, and I love reading about like Tudor era England. So Henry VIII and his 6 wives, etc., etc. This book follows a lesser known character from that time period, Thomas Cromwell, who's kind of one of the people that is instrumental in the rise of Anne Boleyn. This book is over 600 pages long, it's chunky, and it's written in a really weird style. It's very dry, it's really hard to get into, really hard to connect with, and if it wasn't for the fact that I am not a DNFer, I stick it through to the very end, I probably would have DNF'd this book. Looking back, I wish that I had DNF'd this book, because maybe I could have finished some of those other ones sooner. So full review is still to come, but this was definitely my least favorite book of March. Next up, a book that is also at the bottom of my list, but slightly above Wolf Hall, and this shouldn't be any surprise, and that's going to be House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas. I know, unpopular opinion, but that's okay. I just put out my review for this. I'll link it above. You can go watch it. That goes into details about all the reasons why I really didn't like this one. I don't hate it. Just want to be clear. Like, I don't hate the book by any means. It's really just meh for me. Very, very, very meh. Meh and kind of eh. If that makes any sense whatsoever. So that's all I'm going to say about this one for now. So I will move on to number 3. All the rest of the books on this list I did really enjoy, so it was hard to rank them because they're way better than the bottom 2, but I'm going to start with book number 3, and that's going to be Eclectic Nightmares by Mr. Jeremy Fee. I did a 1-minute review on this. If you're not familiar with Jeremy's YouTube channel for some reason, I will link it down below. He is a great supporter of the BookTube community. I'm really glad that I read this book. Like I said in my little 1-minute review, I am not a poetry reader. I really don't read poetry. I haven't read poetry since I was forced to do so in school. So I didn't have high expectations going into this, and I was pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed reading this. So Jeremy, if you're watching, this was great, and yeah, I can't wait to see what you do next. Book number 4 for March is going to be Percy Jackson and the Titan's Curse. This is the 3rd book in the Percy Jackson series. Another really great book in this series. I am going to review it at some point individually. The only reason it's farther down on my list now is because it's the 3rd book in. There's a lot of things that are familiar in this book so far, but I do appreciate, I will say this off the bat, I appreciate that the decisions that the characters make in this book in particular have some very serious consequences, and I really like that. It gives this series like a level of danger and adventure that isn't always present in like YA or middle grade type books, so I thought that is really good. So more to come on this one for sure, but another really great book in the Percy Jackson series. I know I've said this a million times, and I'll say it a million times again, but totally understand why this series is so popular. My top 2 books of March were really hard to determine which one I liked best because I like them both so much. But by a sliver, my 5th favorite book of March is going to be The River Has Teeth by Erica Waters. Haven't reviewed this book yet. Real simple. It's about 2 girls. One girl has had a sister who's gone missing. One girl lives on in the forest, and she kind of does potions and spells and stuff. The paths of the 2 girls cross, and it's like a part murder mystery, but there's also magic involved, there's monsters involved, there's danger involved, there's romance involved. This book has a lot going on for it, and the reason that I really love this book, which I'm going to repeat in my review, but I'll say it here for you, is that a lot of times especially in YA literature, when they talk about female characters being angry, we don't really see that, or you don't really feel it. There's only been a very few times, especially in YA, where you really feel like a character is angry. Not in this book. Not in this book. When they say this character is angry, she is angry, and she lashes out at friends, family, she is angry. And I really appreciated that that this author does not hold back and trying to show how angry this character is. This is not a tell, this is a show, which I 100% appreciate. So really, really loved this book. The only reason that it's slightly lower than number 1 is because the ending of the whodunit is a bit predictable. It is a bit predictable, if I'm being honest. But other than that, I really, really, really love this book. And that brings me to my number 1 favorite book of March, and that is going to be Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare. It has been too long since I've read a Shadowhunter book. I'm a huge fan of this series, and I have to say, these books, and there's been a lot of them so far, keep getting better and better. The first series, The Mortal Instruments, it's okay, it's fun. The second series, The Infernal Devices, gets better. The third series, The Dark Artifices, gets even better. I loved that one so much. And reading this book kind of feels like coming home. Coming back to a world that I know, even though there are new characters here, there's still old characters that I recognize. I just love this world, and I love the characters, and it feels familiar to me. And I really enjoyed this story, loved everything about it. There's nothing I can complain about. Definitely will have more to say, more reviews coming out for this one for sure. I'm trying to decide if I want to do a full length or a 1-minute review for this one. I don't know what's going to happen, but stay tuned for more. So those are all the books that I read in March. But wait, Chris, don't you usually read a Stephen King book every month? Well, yes, I do. And there is a Stephen King book that I was reading in March, which was The Tommyknockers. But guess what? I did not finish this book. I got down to the last couple of chapters, but I could not get it done. It was just too chunky of a book. It's almost 800 pages. I didn't have enough time, so I didn't finish it in March. I finished it yesterday. So yesterday was April 4th? I finished it yesterday. So technically it will be part of my April reads, even though I read most of it in March. But I didn't finish it in March, so I did not put it on this list. So that brings me to my April TBR. Other than my Stephen King book, which I already finished in this first few days of April, the other books I'm going to be reading this month are as follows. First up is going to be my recommendation for April, and that's going to be Prince of Thorns by Mark Lawrence. This book was recommended to me by David's Book Reviews. I'm going to link his channel down below, and we are actually going to be buddy reading this together all month long. We're only a few chapters in. I already have loved emailing back and forth with David talking about our thoughts, so more to come on this one for sure. Next up is my adult fantasy for April, and that's going to be The Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson. This is the third book in the Mistborn series, so I am excited that I can finally finish this series. This was the first Brandon Sanderson series I read. Even though, like, some of the books have been a bit slow, they've also been really enjoyable. So I will definitely be seeking out more Brandon Sanderson in the future once I finish this one. Now, typically, I read some sort of a historical fiction or a romance, but for April, I decided I wanted to take a break from that because I read that Alaskan book, The Great Alone, that was super heavy, and then I read Wolf Hall, which was also super heavy, didn't enjoy that. So I went for something completely different, and yes, this is technically kind of romance, and that's going to be Crave by Tracy Wolff. I don't know a ton about this book other than it's like an updated version of Twilight. So we have young girls at a school, like a private school. We've got vampires and other types of creatures at this school. There's also an element of romance here. I can tell you I'm only like 5 chapters in and I am already really enjoying this one because it's funny. It is super funny. One of the girls talks about, you know, that phrase when you're nervous, you get butterflies in your stomach. The character in this book, instead of having butterflies in her stomach, says that she has pterodactyls in her stomach. And there's just something about that, like picturing pterodactyls flying around, that really amuses me. So I'm hopeful that this book will be just as amusing as the first few chapters are. For my YA fantasy of April, I'm taking a break from all the series, which I keep saying I need to finish, but I was lucky enough to get this copy, advanced copy, of Our Crooked Hearts by Melissa Albert. This book actually comes out in June, and the publisher, Flatiron Books, was kind enough to send me a copy, and because I want to read it and review it before it comes out, I'm going to be reading it now. I actually have no idea what this book is about other than witchcraft. So, young girl and a mother, there's some witchy stuff going on. I don't know. I'm only a few chapters in so far. I don't know what's going to happen, but I have really high hopes. I really want this book to be good. I really want this book to be good so I can give it a good review and they'll send me more books, but I'm also not going to lie, so we'll see what happens. Wish me luck with this one. Next up, of course, I'm going to be continuing my Percy Jackson journey with the 4th book, The Battle of the Labyrinth. Things are starting to get serious now in the Percy Jackson world. This book is actually chunkier than the rest of them, so we'll see if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know, but really been enjoying this series so far, and I have high hopes for this book. Last but not least, I have my book back books for the month, and that is going to be A Lesson in Vengeance by Victoria Lee. I just literally randomly picked this one off my shelf because I thought the pink flowers on the cover gave me like a April spring feel. But apparently this is another book that's about like a school, like a boarding school. And I'm a little concerned that reading like 2 school books, this one and Crave, that I might get confused a little bit. But we'll see what happens. But I do want to show off really quick. So this came in an Owl Crate book box, a previous one that I got like over a year ago. But it's got these super pretty silver sprayed edges. And then the book also has a super cool reversible dust jacket cover, which is also super pretty. I love the little Ouija board there on the cover. So super cool, super pretty. Owl Crate always has amazing book editions in their boxes. So hopefully this is a good one. Hopefully I don't get it confused with Crave, but we'll see what happens. And yes, I still have to pick out another Stephen King book. I'm pretty sure I have to check my list that the next book is The Dark Half. I just have not pulled it off my shelf yet, so bear with me. Maybe I'll add that later on as a short or something. I don't know. That concludes my March reading wrap-up and my April TBR. I know the little fuzz butts haven't been in many videos lately, so Meepers wanted to say hello. Hello! If you enjoyed enjoyed this video and my ridiculousness, please give it a thumbs up. If you're not already, please subscribe to my channel. Me and my furry friends will be posting new videos coming soon. Happy reading!